Next, we are going to head over to Oklahoma, my home state, and we're going to hear from Nick Gribnow, who is the product manager for imaging and document software at the Oklahoma Department of Human Services. So thank you very much, Nick. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
All right. So like Claire said, my name is Nick Gribnow. I'm the product owner for document management and imaging for Department of Human Services. And I kind of remarked earlier today when our panelists were kind of meeting us, looking through the descriptions, it seems like a lot of us had to transition to a lot of digital document management in different ways around the same time a few years ago. And so that I thought that was pretty interesting, but it's great that we all kind of flocked to a system like OnBase, and I'm very appreciative of DataBank and all the work that they've done with the state of Oklahoma, and all the things that we've gotten into, and we've gotten into quite a lot. So and we've got a lot more still to go. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start running through this. So through just a little bit about myself, I spent 14 years with the state of Oklahoma. I started out with specialized case management at Children's Hospital, working with low-income families. Did that for about 4 years, and then worked into training and statewide policy and procedure trainings for child support, and then shifted over into business process engineering, which then forwarded me into product ownership and management for the agency. So kind of a funny inside joke for DHS is that when I first started this job, we it really wasn't a job. I was in business process engineering. I'd only been doing business process engineering, continuous improvement for the agency in an official capacity for about maybe 3 weeks, and as a starter project. Because COVID had really hit DHS and everyone else really, how are we going to access physical paper when we were no longer on site? They thought it'd be good to kind of give Nick a starter project as a liaison between our vendor DataBank and the agency departments that would be using this product. 3 weeks in on the job, and 3 years later, here we are running through an entire culture shift. So it really has been quite a bit of it's funny that it was just this will be an easy thing for him to start out with, and for a lot of the panelists that kind of laugh at that, kind of transitioning into a agency-wide or a business-wide model of using OnBase or digital document management at any level is never I would say classified as easy. So previous phases started May of 2020 and ran through August 2020 as just kind of getting us to a digital baseline. And what we did is we created a file structure for phase 1 and phase 2 for 18 of our 17 DHS divisions. We developed specific scan plans for those closures of offices as well. And then we also closed 44 physical offices across the state out of 90. So roughly over an 11-month period, we cut our physical footprint in the state of Oklahoma by half. That was not, and we were mostly a physical paper operation. And so we had physical paper across the state in multiple ways, forms, and fashions. We either anything that was digital, we had some digital filing cabinet systems. We had what I would call a pile of PDFs and folder structures across the state, maybe Oracle blobs in some of our systems. We have one division that we've just went live with that had a imaging system using App Extender, another imaging or a document management system. Document imaging system. I wouldn't say it's managed. Never mind. We're not here to badmouth other products. They were using that, so we were able to kind of avert them from our first initial push. But over that 11-month two-phase project, we digitized over 30 million pieces of paper, which really was in kind of sprints. And so I would say really the digitization of those 30 million pieces of paper was only in about 6 months versus that 11-month plan. So it was quite a huge physical footprint that we had to account for. And some of that was done in different ways. Through on-site, and then we also centralized some of that digitization as well. And we're going to kind of get into some of that in the presentation. So our current phase right now, we're finishing up converting our AFS digital imaging system. AFS is Adult Family Services. So we are the Department of Human Services, which deals with public benefits, SNAP, TANF, or what people would usually call welfare or food stamps. We also have with Adult Family Services. We also digitize our child welfare system as well as our child support document system. And we're growing in that as well too. So with quick questions, so the 30 million in 11 months, that was fully indexed in different ways. That wouldn't, I wouldn't say that they were, we had kind of a phased plan. We have an archive scanning, which is where we took the physical file as a whole or in pre-prepped sections. So depending on the division, they did it in different ways. Child support had 3 sections that they would just kind of partition their files out, and then we took those chunks and scanned them, kind of chunked out file as a whole, things like that. Child welfare had, depending on the unit within child welfare, that anywhere from 5 to 10 sections of documents, so like a legal section, and then all the legal documents were there. Really, we had to get to that digital baseline so that they could access the physical pieces of paper versus having to be able to get into their physical office, right? Because things were social distancing and how business was happening. We still had to serve the people of Oklahoma, and that physical paper still needed to be accessed. So we had to figure out the fastest way to get it digitized in a way that the staff could still have some functionality and use out of it. So depending on the division, we did a bunch of different ways in the setup, but it was all indexed usually by case number, potential customer client names. We did have autofill set up, tied to some legacy systems and things like that. Was it perfect? No. Have we learned a lot from it? Absolutely. But yeah, right now, currently, we're working on automated document routing for child support through what we call barcoding. So one of our units that specifically deals with employer forms dealing with child support, all system generated documents will be affixed with a 3-dimensional barcode, or what we would call a QR code. I know now, because I didn't know then, it's not really a QR code. Looks like one, but it's not. And case data and document type values are in that 3-dimensional code. And so through that importing process, on-base OCR and advanced capture will read it and then basically auto-index it based off of our autofill and document type that's based in, or kind of into that 3-dimensional code. We developed through court documents within our child welfare division, any court documents, there's 4 doc types that they kind of upload their court-related documentation through, would then be full text searchable in OCR, and it also will be creating a rich text formats version so that the actual text based off of PDF, image, whatever, however it gets in the system, can then be extracted for other usage, because they use it in case notes, they use it in summary orders and things like that, and they're able to then extract text that may be provided by the court system that the worker then uploaded. It may not even been their court order that they generated or things like that. They can then pull out that information that's used across for different advocacy groups and things like that. So that's a huge benefit to them for having to not have to retype summaries and things like that. They can just copy and paste that information out directly from the court order, and they're not missing any information. We are in the middle of developing our mobile access platform through our statewide. So each division, each worker that does frontline work has a state issued cell phone. We're going to be deploying the mobile on-base app that gives us the ability to do retrieval of documents, on the go importing, especially when you're in the field. It's kind of, we don't really want to have to carry a bunch of paper with us anymore either, because of certain federal guidelines and regulations we have to follow in the state as well. A lot of that stuff has to be locked in file, like a locked cabinet of some sort, even in transport. So if we're able to take that file to the customer, import it after their signature, and leave the physical paper with them and walk away, it's secure. We're able to then, reduce some of that footprint as well too. Digital signatures is something that we're ongoing and developing. There is differing levels of that. And so we're hoping to, with the mobile access, to be able to, at the bare minimum, apply scribble form signatures to documents that might need to be signed on the fly as well. So those are things that we're in the development process for. We have a system notification for reviews. So our child support system, they wanted a way to, hey, send this to so-and-so, it needs to go for review, this type of review, or send it to these 3 people, send it to this unit. And so there's a Unity form process that basically connects through our Outlook email that we fill that out, review this case, and then a notification goes off. So we're currently, we haven't developed it 100% yet. But we have our live case data sync from we have a record of truth. It's an old COBOL IMS platform. And so that is a lot of the agency uses software that's been around since maybe before I was born. I don't know. That's probably, I say it jokingly that we've been using some of these systems since the 40s. But we're in the middle of creating some live data syncs between our record of truth using MuleSoft and ZOS Connect to be able to real-time display that index value or that to tag that autofill keyword in a way that it will bring it in real time versus a nightly import or an out of sync import, depending on what that autofill keyword set is tied to. So some of that's really straightforward for some newer systems, but when you're connecting into some of these older systems, I equate it, it's like hooking up your iPod to a VCR, right? Probably can be done. I don't know what that looks like, but there's some possibilities. Or jump starting a Tesla from to a 1970 Ford Pinto. Possibilities are there, but does that actually work out? I don't know. So we're working on a lot of that in the state of Oklahoma, trying to modernize a lot of our technology, and OnBase is one of those ways that we're doing that. Our next phase that we're working, that should start shortly after July, is a global document repository. So a lot of our customers will submit documents to the agency, and then another division that is using or working with that customer will need the same document. So instead of putting that burden of our customer submitting the same document 10 times, things like driver's license, birth certificates, social security cards that are used across multiple agencies or divisions in our agency. We want to be able to have that repository, then they can grab that, lightening that load. I don't know if you guys have ever gone to get a reprint for your social security card, or even just getting a reprint for your birth certificate. It takes some time. And with us dealing with some of our customers, time is not always easy. Transportation is usually a barrier, and also sometimes there's a cost involved. And so if we can use something that's already been provided to the agency multiple times, we want to be able to do that and lighten that burden off of our customers. So we're working on additional workflows and automation with mailbox importer and things like that. Just being able to automate incoming documents. This week we'll go live with a notification email that gets sent from a third-party vendor about specific benefits that they help manage. Those currently right now we're going to individual worker inboxes, and so now we're going to be capturing those straight, and then they were uploading those into OnBase, or they were working their case action off of that. Those will now just automatically upload into OnBase for them. And then it will run into their task assignment software as well too. So that's alleviating some of that burden or duplication of effort, I call it, off of our workers, to also help our customers' benefits be worked more proactively as well too. So we're looking at more document barcoding across the state. Obviously, anything that's system generated, I would like to be able to fix a barcode to it, and OnBase be able to know exactly what that document is and which case it's for. That's something that we really want to get into from an agency perspective, that we have a better manage and again reducing the duplication of effort. I shouldn't have to go and find the document if the system can tell me what it is. So we had another question here: is global depository accessible by users? So right now it's not accessible to anybody. It's just a pipe dream. This crazy guy's got one of those. So ultimately up front would be a internal only. Up there, we are working on a portal system right now for the state that would use query blocking to where a customer could then access documents they submitted to the state or to DHS specifically, not the state. And then also any notice that we generated mailed or electronically to them, they would have access to those historical notice. So we're going to get there. We're just not there yet. So there's going to be a level of global document repository and some regulations. Obviously, there's a lot of security, PHI, HIPAA, IRS, FTI, all the acronyms you want to kind of throw at us. We got to follow those rules and regulations. But yeah, so internally up front, we have that working towards that first step. Externally for me as a customer, if I wanted to say, hey, I submitted a birth certificate to you guys, I need a copy of that because I don't have time to go wait at Vital Records for 12 hours and pay $25, and all I need is a copy. I don't need an official. Well, we're going to get to that. We want that for our customers as well too. So we're working on further development of record center digitization. We've got over 100 million documents sitting in a warehouse, which is, I would hate to see the fire insurance on that building, but they are stacked. We're going to also be showing a little bit of, if I've got time, I don't want to overdo it, but I'll go through a little bit of a virtual walkthrough. I got a little video I can show you guys about walking through our records warehouse, just kind of show you the volume we're looking at. We're working on a better way to digitize that. And then we have some new Salesforce case management systems we're looking at integrating with when those go live in future phases. We continue to migrate legacy documentation, and we had 5 other imaging systems that we used. And so trying to get into one place and one space that we can then manage those things is really job security for me. So we're working through that through next phases as well too. And we want to develop a larger scale document management and imaging team because paper isn't going away. I tell this to people all the time. We're not going paperless. We're just going digital. Paper will be a thing until they cease to use it anywhere else. Paper is going to be a thing. And so we need to figure out better ways, like I said, from our record center to the mail center to how our customers provide things locally, not just digitally. We need a good way from a state perspective on how we manage those things digitally, right? Of getting paper to a digital platform. And we're going to continue. We got, like I said, we went live with our 10th division this month or last month. We've got 11, six more divisions to kind of envelop. So we're going to work on getting those enveloped in our next phases, and then really develop our automated retention schedule. So the state has a pretty extensive automated retention schedule, or not automated, sorry, extensive retention schedule. I'd like to automate that. Right now it rests with one lady. She is the most amazing person I've ever met in knowledge of documents. She runs our record center, rightfully so. I believe they probably just built the building up around her because someone handed her a box of paper and they said, you're in charge of this now. So, and now she's got over 40,000, 50,000 bankers boxes worth of documents that she now manages and runs. And so when she retires, because she's been here for a hot minute, that wealth of knowledge, I need to get that digital because I don't think anyone will ever remember anything that she's got committed to memory now, because she's been here from paper to digitization. And so we really appreciate all the knowledge that she has, and it's really helped me in how we manage documents from an agency perspective. So again, milestones as of today, we've digitized 41 million pages since our inception in the last 3 years. 4.7 million documents. Of those 40 million, about 9 terabytes worth of storage. We average now, since going live, with our biggest paper producing agent or divisions, 143,000 documents per month. About 41,000 pages per day are coming in to OnBase through our 10 divisions. We created an on-demand scanning request for a records warehouse. So things that are not digitized but are sitting in that records warehouse, they can request through their request system that document or that file be imaged. And so instead of we used to have a record, so you just mail it to that office or mail it to that worker. Now they just digitize it, put it into OnBase. They then submit that physical paper off for destruction, and then now it's digitized. And so we have a slow kind of flow into OnBase for a lot of that stuff, as well as reducing our footprint physically in that way as well too. So, and again, we have 10 divisions ready and live, or ready and live in OnBase now. So record center conversion, we got over 150 million pieces of paper. Right now, we have about 15 staff digitizing and quality control those documents through their on-demand system, and it's just a reduction of our flow currently. We still keep finding pockets of paper across the state as we move different divisions around. As with our physical footprint, we've got different offices and things like that we're moving around. So we keep finding paper that somebody had hoarded somewhere. And so we are working on reducing that flow specifically. We also have to specialize on damaged document imaging. So we have some specific scanners that we used that for documents that were part of a flood. And we have some other specialized things that we had to get. We sent some documents off for special cleaning because we had not just a physical flood from Mother Nature, but we also had an office building that had a sewage flood. And so that soaked a good amount of paper that was just stacked in boxes on the floor, because that's the best way a lot of people stash paper. So we had to have those specially cleaned. And so we have a specialized process for imaging some of those things that had to be specially cleaned and things like that. So, and then we're working on what we call for digital media conversion. We have a lot of things that get provided to us on thumb drive, and a lot of us that provide us on disk drives and things like that. And so we're working on some of that digital media conversion now. We store everything from videos to images to documents to across the board, depending on the division. And so OnBase has really been a good unifier and standardized process for how we store things in those natures, instead of having these digitally or physically. We've had these nooks and crannies all over the state. So that's kind of our record center conversion plan going forward. All right, I'm gonna open up a quick video, walk you through what the record center kind of looks like. This is our big, still what's physical, right? So the main thing that I try to get when we bring on a new division is the trying to get people to understand we have to get to a day forward or a digital baseline. And that digital baseline ends up being, we can't worry about what's physically there because it takes too long to get to that to be resolved. And so the main way that we want to we got to get you guys kind of day forward moving. And so getting that day forward, plan is what's more important. And then we can work with the physical, because if we would have sit here and worked with if we had to sit here and worked with the record center on all the paper that they have in the system, like we would still be working on, like we wouldn't have a single thing probably digitized. And so we had to get to a point where we had to get a baseline and then move forward on that. And so that's really where we're at right now with the record center, and go. So this is a lot cleaner than it used to be, but they used to have pallets even stacking off these bins. So hopefully everyone can kind of see that. Yeah, might be a little choppy on your end as well, and I apologize for that. But this is just one area. I believe it's a 20,000 square foot warehouse, and all of these off, you can just see pallets upon pallets and rows. This is just one area of our warehouse, and then we have these pallets are off for destruction because they've been digitized and they're ready to go off. So we're reducing pallets by also bringing those things on. So this is just kind of a walkthrough of our record center now, where there's over 150 million different pieces of paper that we are working on. You can kind of see it's a dark and scary place, but this is where a lot of our physical paper now is. So things that we couldn't digitize in the field, that didn't need to be immediately digitized, we absolutely had to get stored over here. A lot of these open spaces you're seeing now used to be full of pallets. You can still see some leftover pallets. You'll still see some leftover carts and things like that. But we have think I was trying to find a light for that at that point, but it's a lot of paper and a lot of things, but we've been able to reduce a good amount, and you can start seeing some empty racks that we've been able to reduce and not have to fill up and things like that. So that's just kind of our these are some security destruction boxes that we're sending off each month, and they get sent off to, I think they use Iron Mountain or something like that, but kind of gives you a quick easy walkthrough of our giant warehouse full of paper that we're still digitizing. So it's not a sprint, right? It's a marathon, especially when you're converting an entire state agency in that way. So I imagine a lot of you went through that too, and probably still have paper in some form or fashion, and we're trying to get out of that mentality, right? So things that we're working on growth is digital signatures and how that integrates with some of our electronic forms. We use an Adobe AEM platform and Adobe Lifecycle for a lot of our digital forms. We want to start automating a lot of those processes, and we've got a few in the pipeline, but got to start small. Our customer portal, we kind of talked about that's coming up in next phases. From a statewide, they'd like to get not just DHS, but they'd like the customer portal of the state of Oklahoma, so the tax commission can tie in, and other state DPS and other state agencies that we utilize. Just state services. DHS is going to have their portion of the portal, but how they apply for benefits, how they submit documents, those things, we do those electronically now, but it's kind of scattered across a few different places. And so that's something that we absolutely want to get to. So complete reconciliation. This is my long-term goal of just getting off every other imaging system that we have and getting to OnBase so that we can look at that automated retention schedules and things like that. But I got to get it into one place before we could do that. So things that we need to grow on as an agency is looking at digital waste and duplication, reducing duplication of effort, reducing duplication of documents. Things that we constantly are, and I think we all probably have these battles internally, maybe not from a wholesale scale, but it really does give us a little bit more trying to get buy-in of a digital approach versus the physical dependency. Like I said, DHS was really good about hoarding paper. You kind of saw that as well. Some of that is forced upon us, right? So things like child welfare documents, we have to keep indefinitely. Adoption documents, we have to keep for over 100 years. And so that kind of forces you to hold on to things, and that creates a mentality of, oh, don't get rid of that piece of paper, you might need it. And so trying to get that digital buy-in and trust for things that we have a lot of what we call CYA covers, right, or CYA documents, right? So I have my copy and I submitted it to the people who's supposed to have their copy, but they're probably going to lose it, so I need to keep my copy. And so trying to buy that physical dependency or that duplication dependency, get buy-in off of that is a daily struggle, really anywhere in the world, I'm sure. And really looking at process automation versus manual processes. Where can we take not reduce our force, but a lot of the agency in the state of Oklahoma and a lot of government agencies have this kind of saying of do more with less, right? So we've had in the previous, I would say, administrations for the state has then, we do reduction in force first instead of other things. And so that we're trying to automate those things, help in those areas. I can say that our current state at the DHS level, that reduction in force is not an option anymore, which is great. But there's sometimes going to be times where it's tough, right? And so a reduction in force may have to happen, even though it's not a first recourse option anymore. We want to make sure that we can automate a lot of those things through workflows, life cycles. We have some RPA bot plans and things like that. So we're working through some of that from a state agency. Government has its own barriers, red tape, and things like that. I am not the best red tape person, even though I've worked with the state for 14 years. It's always been something that not that I've willingly skirted, but at the bare minimum, I've tried to find the fastest way through it. So we got some questions. That really is kind of my my presentation there. Oh, I didn't mean to go that far over. I apologize. I'll go ahead and stop my share, and we'll answer some questions. So looks like you said we're using OCR full text search. When you search, are you finding that they're pulling back more than 1,300? On-base limit searches, if you are, how are you handling those? They can't pull back all at once. So our on-base is set. The search return limit, we use Unity. We're in EP3 version 23.3.20. I don't, whatever. We're out there. Ours is set to 2000. So that search limit is actually a configuration setting. We obviously, the way I explain it is whenever you're trying to get over 1,000 or get things in 1,000 hit, it's probably not giving you the best use case to narrow down what you're looking for. So in our case, now this is just for our case, if I'm looking for an Oklahoma County court order in child welfare, that's going to be way more than 2,000 hits probably, because Oklahoma County is one of our biggest counties, is our biggest county. And it's just not, so I would advocate for, let's fine tune or narrow our search a little bit more by using a case number or by using something in conjunction with our OCR. Now, does that mean that that's always possible? No. But those are things that we usually advocate for in that way. We do offer open-ended queries reports. So like basically we have they would just reach out to me or one of my team. I only have one guy, his name's Brian, he's great. But we would work with our reporting team, and we provide an answer for them in that way. Not every user uses a thick client. Thick client has open-ended, I believe, queries. On that, don't quote me on that. I know ours does, but that may not everybody's. So how do we drive our customers to go for digital buy-in? So my customers are all internal. Sometimes it takes someone with a little bit more juice than I got. That's usually our executive team. And so that really gives us a little bit more, it just depends, right? So from our constituents, we've had our application portal and document submission for about 6 years, I think now. So it's kind of a standard, a lot from a renewal process, and like it's kind of standard in that way. Something that we found within DHS is that that's just the way the world's going. Even though like you ask me to print something today, man, it's a struggle for me, and I've got a printer at home, right? So I think a lot of our customers trying to meet our customers where they're at. A lot of customers want digital. That doesn't mean that they're going to need digital, because there's still going to be a subsection of the population that doesn't really do that. So we try to meet our customers where they're at. We still accept paper. We try to, if they call into our helpline and they have the ability, we kind of walk them through. We have a support staff that will walk them through the application process digitally. So that's something that we go that way. Like I said, for me, internal customers, usually showcasing benefits and talking through processes. And we've kind of, I wouldn't say tipped the scale, but a lot of people are starting to hear of how nice OnBase is and how we've kind of helped those things. And we also have a lot of interdivisional transfers. So someone may have used OnBase in this division and then come into a new division that's just coming in and like, oh, it's great. It made things so much easier. This is so great. So there's a little bit of that grassroots role too. So that really helps. So the strategy for a back file. So technically, like from our archive perspective, we really look at that. We kind of have an archive plan and then, or historical reference plan versus going day forwards plan. We really look at that chunk scanning or that bulk batch scan of 100 pages, 300 pages, depending on the file, and then give the end user the ability to go in and cherry pick those documents out through document separation and things like that. So if I needed my birth certificate there, if I needed that, I can pull that in into my case file over here. And it's really still tied to the new file of the going forward file, but we have kind of this, everyone just kind of knows if it's before this date, it's probably going to be in this chunk file and I can pull things out, right? And so there's just a little bit different. It depends on the division or that unit that we're working with as well too. Some of them did go pretty granular on some of their backfile stuff too. DEQ, we get a request for every environmental event that has happened. That can be huge. Depending on the amount of documents and sharing, so document sharing too from external standpoint. We got some irons in the fire from a portal standpoint, as well as so when we share an adoption document right now with someone in the state of Oklahoma, they get 10,000 plus documents on a kid that they've adopted through DHS, just because of medical records and all the other things that have happened in this kid's case. They get kind of that disclosure of all the information. So we can't email it, right? So I can't email hundreds of megabytes. It gets hard. I have to send you 10 megabyte emails maybe, or more, depending on, we've got some packets that are 11,000 pages plus on an adoption. How do we deliver that digitally? We're working on some solutions with integrations through OneDrive and verification. Our customer portal will do some of that as well too. So we've got a lot of things. Like, we don't have a true full picture yet. We're just now getting our feet wet with a lot of those things as well too. And that's yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't even look at the chat either. There's questions in the chat. Okay. Well, that's all I got. Is there anything else that I can answer?
Thank you, Nick. That was great. We are going to ask if there's any questions here in Lincoln. I think we might have a couple. We've got one from Chris Pellman.
You mentioned that you're going to be doing some scanning on mobile. Have you gotten far enough to know how you're going to do that?
So not much more than what's been presented in the MRG, right? So we know that there's you can access autofill keyword sets off the import. You can import straight. It's going to be managed through our authenticator app as well. And so it's simply just, the best way I describe it is kind of, it's another way into the building. So we have Unity clients, our main entrance. Mobile will be kind of like the side entrance, but it's still secure. Importing still works that way. I believe you'll have the ability to either upload an image, right? So I take a picture of a document and import it that way. We haven't even got to the testing phase yet, so I can't with 100% certainty tell you exactly how that works. But from the MRG, it's pretty straightforward, other than, we click upload image and it imports through that. So
Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much, Nick. I would just like to say that as a taxpayer of the state of Oklahoma, I really appreciate all the work that you're doing. Keep it up. Thank you so much. Let's give Nick a round of applause, everyone. Thank you.